What's the most disturbing thing you've witnessed in school? I saw a guy in my choir class stick his finger down his throat so he could puke on a girl who was bullied quite frequently. After he did it, he was looking around laughing and everyone was just sitting there horrified. The teacher broke the silence with a "get the heck out. Go to the principal now." There's always that one guy who takes stuff too far. There was this one kid who thought it was a good idea to pee in a bottle and open it and pour it on people. In 7th grade I saw a security guard get stabbed in the back in the school hallway. He lived, thank goodness, but that was pretty disturbing to me. I remember some kid in middle school took a shit in his hand and held the turd like it was some trophy. A girl freaked out. The teacher evacuated the classroom, and it was like a standoff between the deranged kid and the janitor who wanted to go in and clean the mess up. I think he got suspended for something like being indecent or just batshit crazy. I don't recall seeing him again after that. I wonder how he's doing now. A guy at my school, whose mom had recently died of cancer, cut his nipple off for 20. He kept it in a bag and showed it around the school, and I actually saw some pictures. People said he ate it for another 20, but I'm not so sure about that. Two guys were play wrestling and rammed each other into a locked door. The door collapsed, and the glass on the door shattered everywhere in the hallway. One shard went flying and cut this one kid right above the eye. The shard lodged itself there, and it was sticking out of his face. It was nothing serious though, because apparently it's just an empty cavity. No lie. When I was younger, 4th grade, I think there was a girl in my class that had leukemia. She had gone through chemo and had lost her hair. One day we had a sub, and he sees her with her bald head and asks her in front of the whole class, "What? Are you trying out for the next Star Wars movie?" Even as a 4th grader I knew that was pretty ducked up. Needless to say, some people told the principal and that sub never taught in the district again. My school had it in a lady who gave a student recovering from leukemia a detention for a stupid hairstyle. She resigned shortly after that and everyone cheered upon hearing the news, so she sat in a corner and cried. 15-16-year-old girl run out of class crying when the volleyball soccer coach was announced having twins with his wife. They were supposed to run away together. Was this a fantasy in the girl's head? Or was this an actual student-teacher relationship situation? There was an actual student-teacher relationship. She used to stay in his office every lunch period. A group of girls got into a fight as school was letting out, and parents got involved. Saw one parent punch a girl in the face. The parents and kids were fighting each other until the girls realized the parents were involved, and they stepped back. The parents kept fighting each other. One parent even punched the principal in the face. It was absolutely the most atrocious act of immaturity I've ever witnessed. About 3 years ago, back when I was still in high school, there was this tiny sophomore that wore mostly black, was quiet, and listened to her music whenever she wasn't in class. Let's call her Jen. Jen was walking to class one day through the main hallway when this popular girl, we'll call her Ashley, came up and started bullying her, yelling, calling her stupid, etc. Jen calmly paused her music, took out her earbuds with her back up to the brick wall, grabbed Ashley by the hair on the back of her head, smashed her face against the wall and ground it in. Now, if that isn't bad enough, my school had those really jagged bricks that were unfinished and differed into a mess of valleys and peaks on their sides. Needless to say, Ashley's face was absolutely ducked up. Still gives me chills when I think about it, since Jen just calmly walked away afterwards. One time in freshman year, as people were all leaving class, I saw one kid walk up to a trash can and puke up some unnaturally bright blue liquid into the trash can and just walk away like nothing happened. I still have no idea WTF he was eating, drinking to cause that. I was a middle school teacher and was in the clinic when one of our 7th graders came in with stomach pains. She was actually in labor. She was 13. But the father was another 7th grader at the school, also 13. She was fine. She returned to school the next year like nothing happened. but dropped out about halfway through the year to stay home with the baby. I live in White Bible Belt suburbia. It was shocking that she got to full term with no one realizing she was pregnant. Her home life sucks, and it seems she'll continue that cycle. A group of lads in the playground making themselves throw up, while some others cheered them on. There was just this huge pile of sick in the center of them. It was just disgusting. Throw away for obvious reasons. I also told this story a while back in a different thread. I have been a permanent substitute for over 3 years in a school of about 2,000 students. One day I was subbing for a construction class. It was the week before midterms, so the students were supposed to just be reviewing their textbooks and preparing for the written test. Keep in mind that this class contained only senior boys, and when the class settled down, I was basically inhaling Zuli frustrated hormones. They obviously were having a hard time staying in their seats and studying, and I was having a hard time getting them to behave as I was trying to keep the peace. I failed to notice that one boy was trying to tie his buddy's shoelaces together. Once the kid realized that this was happening, he blew a gasket and flipped his desk onto the kid who was pulling the prank. The desk landed on his forehead, causing him to bleed pretty badly. Once the kid noticed the blood, he attacked the kid who flipped the desk. I got into the middle of the fight, which I'm not supposed to do, and with the assistance of another student we broke up the fight. As I sent the bleeding kid to the nurse with another student, I kept the desk flipper in the room with me. But as the bleeding kid was leaving the room, he all of a sudden grabbed one of those metal dust pans from the construction area and completely tomahawked it at the desk flipper. It created a gash that started no less than a centimeter from the bottom of his right eye all the way down to his jaw. He lost 2 of his teeth. Of course I went into panic mode, and of course the ducking phones didn't work. I ran to the nearest office and was shouting for 911 nurses and administrators to come to the room. The desk flipper lost a lot of blood. When he was rushed to the hospital, it looked like there was a homicide in my classroom. It took the custodians about a gallon of bleach to clean the whole mess up. Too long didn't read metal dust pan to the face. 2 kids sent to the hospital. Science teacher let us have free classes just to sit and chat instead of teaching because he was influenced by the cool kids and wanted to be popular. He also made fun of bullied kids with the others, and he didn't write the exams himself, so we barely covered any of the important material in class. This teacher was eventually fired, but it was after around 12 years. It was for selling exams to students. Don't get me wrong, all the teachers did it, but I guess they didn't brag about it to sound cool. I went to a shitty school. I went to a tiny, pre-K-8 Catholic school until 3rd grade. There was only 1 class per grade, and only about 200 kids in total. The 6th grade teacher was only a 7 foot tall, 300-pound monster of a man with huge jowls and spiky black hair. We called him Mr. B. He was like a bad joke to all the kids in the school. My brother, who was 3 years older than me, would tell me stories about what it was like to be in Mr. B's class. He would call everyone by their last name only in a really deep, scary voice. He chugged Slimfast like it was the only thing he'd had to drink in years. He had anger management issues and would throw chairs and slam books on kids' desks when he got frustrated. He once sat on a kid for misbehaving. Needless to say, he was weird. Also, Mr. B loved chips. I mean loved them. Apparently, he would bring in a family-sized bag every day and eat the whole thing by the time school was over. Mr. B would frequently tell his students that he believed in the chip fairy, a mystical being that brought people bags of chips when they weren't looking. To this day I still don't know if he was kidding. Anyway, one day my 3rd grade teacher and Mr. B made a bet on the Super Bowl. The loser had to bring the winner's class cookies. My teacher lost, and so Mr. B came to supervise us while his class was getting cookies. It was our snack time. So little 3rd grade me was sitting at my table with all my friends, getting out my food. That day, I had some salt and vinegar chips and a Capri Sundae. Everything was normal, until sudden everyone I was sitting with fell silent. From behind me, I heard this voice boom. Novak. I turned around. Mr. B was standing behind me, tall and intimidating. I asked him respectfully what was wrong. I remember him squinting and pointing at my snack. "Are those chips?" I nodded. "Give them to me." The class was dead ducking silent as I handed him my chips. Without another word, he grabbed them, walked over to our teacher's desk, sat down, and began eating them. I was left sitting there with my Capri Sun, wondering what the heck just happened. My teacher never believed me, and neither did my parents. To this day nothing has topped that moment in weirdness. Too long didn't read. When I was in 3rd grade, my teacher stole my chips and no one ever believed me. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,